What's up, boys and girls? Welcome into another edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. It's the Monday Mirror edition of the program. Wade Neely sitting in the saddle alongside the one, the only. He is the sports editor of the Robertson County Connection. He is Mr. David Wilson. David, good afternoon.
Wade, how we doing?
We're doing, baby. I think the temperatures have just creeped into 80. I've got a little, Hawaiian kind of shirt just to kind of really accent the mood. And I feel the vibes are off the charts, I think, today, my man.
Looking good with the Hawaiian shirt. Got the short sleeve shirt over here. Got the chain popping. Anytime the sun's out and the guns come out. And with all the rain that we had a couple weeks ago, a week and a half ago, it's nice to have that sun out and it feel actually like spring and with summer coming around the corner.
Hey, no doubt. Hopefully the cooler temps have gone and are never coming back, or at least stashed away for a couple months. It would be nice to enjoy this little run of sunshine. Speaking of run, we got a great run of show today. We got a big show here on this Monday Mirror. We will talk about the events that occurred down at Augusta National coming up here in just a matter of moments, but we will also go in depth on the events that occurred in and around Neyland Stadium this weekend, and there was a lot to break down. So that's kind of going to be the bulk of our show today, but we've got a lot to cover. It was a busy weekend, jam-packed, full of sports. Really anything you wanted was on the docket. Mo and I broke it down Friday. This was the weekend that if you wanted to, you could just sit on the couch and kind of veg out. So to break it down, second hour, we will talk with VALAIR SHABILLA, who's our good friend at 615soccer.com. We will break things down from Geodis Park on Saturday as Nashville picked up a win versus Real Salt Lake. But there was a lot of intrigue and drama in that. So VALAIR will crack open that can with us again at 3:20 this afternoon. We'll also get into the grab bag in that second hour. We'll talk NFL. We'll talk NCAA. And that brings us into this hour. We're glad that you guys are with us here on Main Street Sports today. We will talk Atlanta Braves, and David and I were chatting before the show. I feel like we can, if we dig deep, David, I feel like we can find a little optimism, but man, it has been tough to start the season, to say the least, for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I feel like my optimistic days are starting to get behind me. If you think about it, I think since the end of last summer, we're 10 games or something like that below 500 over our last 100 games. Not very good, and if this pattern continues, we might find ourselves out of the playoff race, or I guess far behind the 8-ball before Strider and Acuna return. So hopefully they can pick it up starting tonight in Toronto.
Okay, we'll dig some more optimism out of you. I feel confident, right. But yeah, you're right. It is kind of a bleak situation thus far. The good news is we're only halfway through the month of April, so a lot to tap into. And then coming up in just a matter of moments, our good friend Ben McKee at GoVols 24/7. He will join us. We will talk all things Nico. We will talk about what Josh Heupel said in his report with the media, and also his comments on radio after Nico has transferred out of the program, or will not be returning, I guess is the easiest way to say it. But while we got Ben, we always like to tap into his knowledge. We will get the other notes, and there were some, out of the spring game at Neyland Stadium this weekend, and we will certainly talk about the UT Vols baseball team, which rallied in dramatic fashion last night to pick up a second win, therefore taking the series versus Ole Miss. So it's a jam-packed show today. We're glad that you guys are with us. Glad that David has joined us, and we're excited to talk with VALAIR and Ben. And David, that means there's only one thing left to do. Are you ready, my friends, for the Monday rundown?
Let's get into it.
I'm going to take that as a yes. So without further ado, crank the music, producer Mark. Let's get the Monday rundown rolling here on Main Street Sports Today.
This is the Rundown.
Gang, before we get into it, we want to remind you that each and every single Monday, your rundown is brought to you by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education in Murray County, so give them a call today at 931-388-5831 or visit ZionEagles.org and schedule an appointment today. That's Zion Christian Academy, where they are prepared for college and equipped for purpose. Rundown action begins. We wind back the clock to Friday with baseball scores. Here we go. Lock and load, boys and girls. Davidson Academy picks up a 7-3 win versus BGA. Riverdale besting Blackman 5-4. It was CPA 10, Waverly nothing. Centennial with a 4-0 win versus Smyrna. Clarksville all over MBA 16-1. It was Clarksville Academy 10, Montgomery Central 3. Westmoreland with a 21-4 victory versus Clay County. Loretto defeating Columbia 8-5. Columbia Academy 10 runs better than Lawson. 10-0 was your final in that one there. More scores. Creekwood 15-1 over Dixon County. It was Page 9, Fairview 1. Franklin picks up a 5-3 win versus Hillsboro. It was Forest 2, Harpeth 4. Hume Fogg with a 7-4 win over West Creek. Beach topping Independence 9-8. St. Pius X out of Georgia defeats John Overton 21-5. Rossview with a 12-2 win versus Liberty Creek. McGavock topping MLK 8-5. Middle Tennessee Christian picking up a 5-4 win versus Brentwood. Coming down the home stretch here on the Diamond Friday. Moore County with an 8-7 win versus Hampshire. It was Eagleville 10, Mount Pleasant 1. Shelbyville with a 9-5 win versus Murfreesboro Central Magnet. Nolansville winning 8-7 over Stewart's Creek. It was Oakland 13, Wilson Central nothing. Portland with an 11-0 win versus Cane Ridge. Battle Creek defeats Richland in Linville. Dramatic finish there as Battle Creek knocks off the Raiders 10-9 Friday night. Rockvale with a 1-0 win versus Siegel. Hendersonville picking up a 10-4 win versus Station Camp. Summertown wins not one but two games, 15-1 versus 15-4, versus Lawrence County, 7-1 versus Spring Hill. Tullahoma with a 12-4 win over Grace Christian Franklin, and Zion Christian with a 15-5 win versus Santa Fe.
GWSLA softball action on Friday. Giles County 23-3 victors over Battle Creek. Columbia Academy a 5-0 shutout over Middle Tennessee Christian. Richland blanks Culleoka 10-0. Zion Christian 6-2 victors over Rockvale. Wilson Central with a 4-0 win over Rockvale. Loretto 13-0 over Wayne County, and Zion Christian a 10-1 victory over Franklin. Some men's soccer action from TLSLA. Zion Christian 5-2 winners over Ezel Harding. Franklin County a 4-1 victory over Giles County. Marshall County blanks Lawrence County 1-0. Oakland 2-1 victors over Siegel. Rockvale with a 3-1 win over Riverdale. Rossview shuts out White House 9-0, and Warren County a 1-0 win over Columbia. Lacrosse action, Oakland 17-11 victory over Wilson Central.
Other scores, let's go to Major League Baseball action Friday, where it was Tampa Bay picking up a 6-3 win versus the Braves. The Astros defeated the Angels 14-3. NBA scores from the Friday night. Tough one for the Memphis Grizzlies. Good one for the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets win that one 117-109. Friday also saw the Sounds pick up a 7-1 win over the Memphis Redbirds. Let's go Saturday high school scores now. And Creekwood started the day early with an 11-7 win versus Dixon County. Green Hill with a 7-0 win versus Innsworth. It was River Christian Academy picking up a 7-6 victory versus Ezel Harding. BGA 16, Fairview 3. It was Franklin Road Christian 7-3 over Zion Christian. Gallatin wins a pair, 7-3 versus Clarksville Northwest, 12-2 versus Warren County. Good Pasture picking up a 2-1 win versus Westfield, Indiana. Westfield, Indiana bouncing back with a 12-2 win in a second game versus Good Pasture on Saturday. Speaking of two games on Saturday, it was East Nashville 6, Howard 2, and then they also defeated Howard 21-0 in a second showdown Saturday afternoon. Providence Christian defeating Laverne 22-0. Lawrence County 13, Lexington, Alabama 3. It was Cookville 10, Rockvale 4. Siegel topping Mount Juliet 9-2. Warren County 10-0 versus Clarksville Northwest. It was White House Heritage 9-3 over rival White House. White House Heritage also picked up a 4-2 win versus Christian Community. Capping your Saturday baseball scoreboard, it was Wilson Central picking up a 7-6 victory versus Riverdale.
High school softball action on Saturday. Alcoa squeaks out a win versus Mount Juliet by a final score of 3-2. Green Hill blanks Alcoa 1-0. Riverdale 14-4 winners over Shelbyville. Summit blanks Rockvale 6-0. Rockvale in the second game beats Centennial 8-6. And then Franklin beat Rockvale once again by a final score of 3-2. Wilson Central 7-2 winners over Zion Christian, and Bishop Chatter out of Indiana defeated Zion Christian 10-9. Girls flag football action from Saturday. Portland with a 13 win over Beach, or 13-0 win over Beach rather. Gallatin also 13-0 victors over Beach. Gallatin also beat White House by a final score of 7-6. Hendersonville beat Westmoreland 27-6. Station Camp beat Liberty Creek by a final score of 20-6. Liberty Creek also blanked White House by a final score of 25-0, and Station Camp blanked Portland 19-0.
Major league scores from Saturday. The Braves pick up their lone win of that series versus the Rays, but it was 5-4. Entertaining ball game on Saturday for the Bravos. It was Angels 4, Astros 1 on Saturday. Golden Knights defeating the Preds 5-3 in NHL action on Saturday. We talked about this earlier. We'll talk about it more later. But NSC picks up a 2-1 win at Geodis Park versus Real Salt Lake. The Nashville Sounds staying hot with a 6-2 win versus the Redbirds on Saturday action. That brings us into Sunday. We do have a softball score from Sunday as Blackman defeated Rockville 13-2. MLB action, it was the Rays 8, the Braves 3. The Astros with the win over the Angels 7-3. NBA scores, the Grizzlies walloping the Mavericks in the regular season finale yesterday afternoon, 132-97. The Redbirds do show a little backbone there. They rally for a Sunday victory, defeating the Sounds. 5-1 was your final.
High school baseball action. First pitch coming this afternoon. Most of these are going to be district slates. John Overton at Hillsborough at 4 p.m. Glencliff at Martin Luther King. That is a doubleheader. First pitch scheduled at 4 p.m. as well. Maplewood making the trip over to Whites Creek at 4 o'clock. Davidson Academy at DCA in Division II single, a 4:30 first pitch over there. Good Pasture making the trip out to Mount Juliet Christian at 4:30, also in Division II Single A. That first pitch is at 4:30. Montgomery Central at White House this afternoon, 5 p.m. start in Sumner County. Columbia Academy making the trip up to Franklin to face BGA tonight at 6 p.m. Ezel Harding making the trip up to Montgomery County to face Clarksville Academy, 6 p.m. first pitch up there as well. Shelbyville at Columbia at 6 p.m. tonight. Giles County at Franklin County, also at 6 p.m. Providence Christian at Grace Christian Franklin, first pitch toss over there. Santa Fe at Hampshire, 6 o'clock first pitch as well. Watertown at Jackson County, also at 6 p.m. Lawrence County at Marshall County at 6 p.m. as well. The rest of these for the foreseeable future are 6 p.m. starts as well. Culleoka at Richland, Hampshire at Santa Fe, Beach at Siegel, Murfreesboro Central Magnet at Tullahoma as well, and Jackson County at Watertown, 6 p.m. 6:30 start for Summertown at Battle Creek. Page at Brentwood, also at 6:30. Clarksville Northwest making the trip over to Dixon County at 6:30. Lawson also facing Hume Fogg at 6:30 as well. Eagleville at Hutland, 6:30 first pitch over there. Lewis County at Mount Pleasant, 6:30 right there. Ravenwood at Nolensville, Clarksville at Rossview, Kirkwood at Springfield, Franklin at Summit, Spring Hill at Warren County, Liberty Creek at Westmoreland, Trousdale County making the trip to Robertson County to face White House Heritage. All those starts are at 6:30 p.m. 7:30 slate for Sycamore at Creekwood. I'll be at Station Camp in Greenbrier tonight, 7 p.m. first pitch up in Robertson County on the Ridgetop, and then Macon County at Portland, 7 p.m. first pitch. And we do not have a first pitch time, but Centennial making the trip over to Independence this afternoon.
Big schedule for our baseball teams here today. We also have a pretty solid softball slate. Let me run it down for you guys. At 4 o'clock, you can catch Clarksville Christian, who's at Christian Community. Also, Gordonsville will meet Smyrna at 4 p.m. 4:30 start times for Murfreesboro Central Magnet at CPA. Ezel Harding will be at Clarksville Academy. 5 o'clock start times now for John Overton at Centennial, Independence at Columbia. Grace Christian Franklin will be on the road tonight at Columbia Academy. Other games at 5. Cornersville at Culleoka. Portland will be at Gallatin. Summertown traveling south, but staying in county. They'll visit Lawrence County tonight again at 5 p.m. Also at 5, it'll be Richland at Lewis County, Battle Creek at Loretto. Mount Pleasant will hit the road for a trip to Perry County this evening. Mount Juliet will cap our 5 o'clock window with a trip to Summit. At 5:30, Clay County will visit Westmoreland. Frank Hughes will be on the road at Zion Christian. Riverdale will visit Forest. And at 6 o'clock tonight, you can catch Stewart's Creek, who's at Laverne. Eagleville will be on the road at Marshall County. And we do not have a start time listed, but our schedule does show that Silverdale Academy tonight will travel to Oakland.
Boys soccer action this afternoon. University School of Nashville taking on Providence Christian at 5 p.m. Girls flag football Smyrna at Siegel, 5 o'clock start. Oakland at Rockville will follow at 6 p.m. and then Stewart's Creek at Siegel in the nightcap at 7 p.m. Major League Baseball action tonight. The Braves making the trip north of the border to face the Toronto Blue Jays. 6:07 start right there. You can catch it on MLB Network and FanDuel Sports Southeast. Grant Holmes opposing Easton Lucas in that starting pitching matchup up there in Toronto. And then Wade's Astros making the trip to St. Louis. 6:45 start right there. Tonight, NHL, the Preds are at home. They face the Utah Hockey Club at 7 p.m. first for the puck drop on FanDuel South. Ladies and gentlemen, that is today's schedule, and that concludes today's rundown. You got it, Wade. Go ahead.
All right, brother. Top story brought to you, as always, by our friends at Piggly Wiggly over at Neely's Mill in Columbia. Make sure you stop by and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and quality cheeses. Everything is cost plus 10 at the register. Once again, Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill in Columbia bringing you your top story. And David, it took maybe a couple of days to get the Masters juices really kind of cranked up, but it kind of seems all worth it because we had an epic payoff yesterday. Rory McIlroy defeating Justin Rose in the very first playoff hole, and not just the win for Rory, not just the tournament this year at the Masters, but it was a historical moment as Rory becomes just the second player, joining Tiger Woods as the only other player since 1966, long time, to complete the career Grand Slam, capping what was a great tournament, somewhat devoid of drama, but it made up for it in spades, it felt like, as we saw Rory bust through and get that first Masters victory yesterday.
Yeah, Wade, I'm not the most avid of golf watchers, but I think you always, as a sports fan, tune in to the Masters and these major events when you get to the final holes, when the pay window opens, per se. And, I watched the final hole, 18, when Rory, I guess in regulation, makes his approach to try to win the Masters and complete the Grand Slam. And I just think about, the fortitude it takes. His second shot, he hits it into the far right bunker, gets it up with a chance to make par to win the Masters, complete the Grand Slam. And you can feel the pressure of that moment, right? You have thousands of people sitting there on the 18th right there watching you try to make, a 5-foot putt. Mm-hmm. And it goes left, and just the perseverance and the mental fortitude it takes to wipe that off, complete the bogey right there, and then go win an 18th playoff hole against Justin Rose, someone that obviously Roy is very close to. You saw the exchange and the hug that they had after the playoff hole. So just the fortitude it takes, the golfer's mindset, how quickly you have to forget, right, and wipe those things away and go out there and compete. Obviously a special moment. You can see when he made that putt in the playoff hole to win the Masters, the emotion of him throwing the club behind him and just falling to his knees, knowing that after 10 years, he's back on top of the mountain once again.
It was an epic scene, and you just described it, right? And I was at home watching kind of by myself, and then we had to go to family dinner, and there were not a lot of golf fans at the family dinner, but for that 18th hole and certainly the playoff, everybody was huddled around the television because you just kind of made that point. It's compelling theater, whether you're a golf fan or not. You're watching a guy that has been trying to bust through, making so many starts at Augusta, 10-plus starts, and needing that one final puzzle piece. I mean, it is – I don't want to, over dramatize it here, but, I mean, it is akin to a movie script, right? I mean, the guy kind of defies the odds in the sense, is he ever going to do it? He had been so close, and the coolest thing was that outpouring of emotion. I mean, that was as raw and as genuine as it gets. And that had everybody at dinner last night just speechless in the sense. I mean, like I said, golf fans or not, everybody felt compelled to tune in. And that was a moment that kind of almost transcends sports, it felt like yesterday.
Yes, I think that people will always remember where they were at in 2019 when Tiger won the Masters after 10 years of trying. I remember I was in college, and I remember standing up in my apartment just hole for hole watching that and, kind of living the agony with him of trying to get coming back from 2 strokes down, going into that final round with this Sunday red on. And to think of Rory, who also, he's 35 years old now. He's a grown man, has kids, He hadn't won a major since he was 25, so it had been just over 10 years since he last won a major. And for him to kind of go through that emotion of finally getting back on top and winning something that he had been chasing for so long, I believe this was his 17th Masters. So on that 17th try to finally get that green jacket was obviously super cool to see. And, I was thinking, I don't think there was a single person that wasn't in tears on that 18th hole, seeing him, fall to his knees and then hug his daughter and obviously kiss his wife. That's something really special.
Everybody, it felt like, in the world, except for maybe Bryson DeChambeau, was, in that moment and just could not be happier for the guy. Whether you've kept up with his career or not, that was, again, a moment that seemingly transcends sports. And we will have more Masters coverage on the show tomorrow. That's a bit of a tease there, but we are actively working to get a guest who was down there all week covering the event. So stay tuned. Later, we'll have some more deets on that. But again, an epic, epic finish. Rory gets the green jacket, completing that career Grand Slam and becoming, iconic. If he wasn't already there, he's certainly in that same breath now. A legendary achievement, and what a way to cap a fun week at Augusta. Good stuff there on our top story. Again, thanks to our friends at Piggly Wiggly over at Neely's Mill in Columbia. That is the end of our first segment, folks. We're going to step aside for a quick timeout. That wasn't the only drama that was going on. There was some drama close to home, and Vols fans know all about what we're about to bring up in our next segment. But to kind of get the insight, we go to our good friend Ben McKee with Go Vols 24/7. He's in the green room. He will join us to break down a wild weekend on Rocky Top. More on that with Ben when David and I return. You are watching Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by TOA of Columbia.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Rolling right along here, hour number one, Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Wade Neely sitting in the saddle alongside David Wilson. And we told you guys just a moment ago, there was drama at Augusta. There's a whole lot of drama seemingly swirling around Rocky Top over the weekend. Mo and I talked about it on Friday, and then the situation was kind of compounded, but the news has been declared. The news is official, and the UT Vols are on the hunt for a new quarterback. So who do we turn to? None other than our good friend, Mr. Ben McKee with Go Vols 24/7. And Ben, it felt like another classic there's a lot of drama on Rocky Top, and we've seen a lot of interesting storylines, and it kind of almost felt like, hey, to use a golf term, kind of par for the course. Why not have a little more intrigue as we got the big news about Nico coming down Friday into Saturday?
Yeah, that's nothing new for Tennessee fans to have to deal with something as crazy as it had to deal with the Nico situation. But it has been a minute. It's been steady waters over at Tennessee for a couple of years now. That's why all the programs are doing so well, and why the athletic department is so healthy right now. They've had their fair share of 24 to 48 hour news stories that take the sports world by storm. But it had been a minute, but social media did not disappoint. There was quite a bit of comic relief once you got through the majority of it. But there's no doubt that that was quite the bizarre story with Nico that transpired and played out in the manner that it did from Thursday afternoon, evening through midday Friday. It was kind of settled I guess it started to become more clear, and then it comes out Saturday morning that Tennessee was parting ways with Nico Iamaleava, and of course made it extra awkward with the spring game being later that day, and putting Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre on a pedestal that I don't think any of us saw coming.
Yeah, and while we've got you, I mean, kind of let's tap into break down kind of your timeline on this. Were you slightly caught off guard? Were you mildly caught off guard? Or was this a full-blown surprise in your mind with the news on Thursday/Friday, and then certainly how it played out Saturday?
In hindsight, this all makes sense. I mean, there had been these types of rumblings for the last year. I mean, after his freshman season in which he sat behind Joe Milton, there were mumblings, rumors. I think they were more just rumors at the time. But at the end of this past season, his first full season as the starting quarterback, those same rumors popped back up. And I know for a fact that they were not rumors. The mumblings that he was, I guess now in hindsight, you could say being shopped around by his father. I mean, those were legit come the end of the season. So those were out there behind the scenes early on in the semester. So for it to kind of come full circle, I guess, towards the end of the semester, it wasn't too surprising because you knew how that family and the handlers, agents, whatever you want to call them, you kind of knew how they were operating behind the scenes. Now, I did not think that it would actually ever come to this point to where he would not be Tennessee starting quarterback in his third year on campus or in 2025. My opinion was that this upcoming football season was his last at Tennessee one way or another. I thought he was either going to ball out and go to the NFL, or if not, he was not going to have the success necessary to go to the NFL. And I thought he and his family would make a move because Tennessee's not totally blameless in this. They have not done a good job of surrounding Nico. Maybe if they do and set him up along the offensive line or at receiver better, then maybe they're not making these demands. Probably not the case because they now have shown how greedy they are. It probably would not have mattered. But, hey, you never know. It's a money year, potentially going to the NFL, loaded at receiver, loaded at O-line. Maybe that changes their mind about being as greedy as they ended up being. So that was kind of my take on it, was that this was going to be Nico's last season one way or the other. And so in that sense, it is a surprise that, okay, he's not going to be the starting quarterback this upcoming season. But in terms of all the rumors and watching it kind of play out Thursday night with the initial report, and then Friday kind of watching it play out, that what became public before the final decision, that had been swirling around the scenes for several months. Now it died down once the spring semester started and once kind of they got into spring practice. It had not really flared up, but in the midst of preparing for Ohio State, in the wake of the Ohio State loss, like these rumors were out there, and folks on social media saw it with Miami and others. I think Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin was maybe one that folks would have liked to heard about. So it wasn't surprising from that standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben, what I guess confuses me about this situation is the fact that, Nico, outside of some games against some non-conference opponents, really wasn't lighting the world on fire last year several times against the upper tier teams of the SEC. With the way that the spring transfer portal works out, obviously he cannot transfer within the conference. So does this move really kind of in your mind make sense for him? Where it seems like, if he had the opportunity this year to ball out at Tennessee, he's going to be a first round pick in the NFL draft. And now you're with, I guess, the talent that you're going to surround yourself with another program that's outside of the SEC is really going to have those kind of same opportunities in your eyes.
No, I totally agree with what you're getting at. I think that this was a really, really bad business decision from everybody involved. And I hate saying Nico specifically because he's complicit, right? Like at the end of the day, he is the center of attention. But I do think that this is all steered by family members, his dad, handlers, agents, whatever you want to call them. I think this is more about Nico maybe following their lead and having decisions made for him rather than him, without a doubt, making the decisions. So when I say Nico, like Nico this, Nico that, it's more about the entire party involved. And I think that they have really overplayed their hand here. Of course, he still has a lot of talent, a lot of potential. And I just think they've left themselves with very, very, very few options. I mean, you saw the report come out today from On3 that some of the early schools potentially involved are North Carolina, UCLA. Those brands make sense. And then Tulane. Like, no offense to Tulane, but getting Nico Iamaleava potentially 3 years after he was a 5-star and considered the best player in the country, some thought he was better than Arch Manning. Like that kind of tells you all you need to know about how much the family and everybody involved overplayed their hand, because there's no disputing the potential and the athletic ability. But if you're a program, and the book was out there, these other schools that were involved and recruited and they hear from other schools, they know how the family operates. They know how big of a headache they have been for Tennessee. So if you're a head coach, why would you want to sign up to deal with them? On top of, like, okay, again, I this past season, I think Tennessee's offense, yes, he did not live up to expectations. There are things he needs to improve on. But I think the offense not playing all that well last season, I think that was more about what was around him than Nico himself. I didn't really look at it as Tennessee having a Nico problem. I think Nico had a Tennessee problem. So that may be the case, but even with that being said, like you're still not worth $4 million, which is what you were wanting and what you were saying the top of the quarterback market was requiring. If you were playing to that level, Tennessee would have been more than happy to pay you at the end of the season. But the production did not live up to that price point. And not only did the production not live up to it, but the whole shebang from the moment he committed has been a massive headache for Tennessee. And they were ready to cut bait. So I think they have severely overplayed their hand, because he is not as far along in his development as he should be. Even if it's not totally his fault. And then also the book is out on the Iamaleava family in terms of them being a headache and how just chaotic things have been with them the last 3 years. And I think that because of the book being out on them, I think they're going to be blackballed in a sense these next couple of weeks. I'd be surprised if he lands in a really, really good situation, because I don't think college coaches across the country are going to want to deal with it. And especially at the price point that they're asking for, because his production has not matched the price point that they want.
Before I throw it back to Wade really quickly, I want to throw this one at you, Ben. I think that Josh Heupel, both nationally and locally, gained a lot of respect in that Tennessee program as well for the way they handled this situation and not putting one player over the program. I think he had one of his best press conferences, or I guess one-liners, if you say, when he said, not one person is bigger than this program, not even myself. So just kind of talk about what that means for this program to, just kind of take that stance that it did and, put that forward, I guess.
Yeah, I thought Josh Heupel, if he were a politician, he would have gained a lot of votes. He would have been trending upwards in the polls. I don't know. I don't do politics, so I don't know the correct verbiage there. But he gained a lot of fans. He obviously is already very popular amongst Tennessee fans. Tennessee fans are pretty much pleased with the job that he has done up until this point, especially given what he took over. But that hits Tennessee fans, and I think college sports fans overall. I think it hits them right in the heart and tugs on the heartstrings because at the end of the day, we have gotten so far away from why all of us love college athletics, and that's because of the passion and love that we each have for our state, our university, or our upbringing, where we're from, so many different things. In this new age of NIL and transfer portal, you're seeing us get away more and more from it. So for them to be kind of the first school to take a stand and not allow this new world to overwhelm them and force them into a bad decision, I think that gained a lot of respect from Tennessee fans, of course. And I've had my buddies that root for Alabama or rival schools, Florida. I have a buddy that's an Alabama fan, a buddy that's a Florida fan, and both texted me asking me my thoughts on the situation and went on to say that I was really glad that Heupel made that decision because and they're kind of pulling for Tennessee in a sense. It's really brought the college athletics world together. Everybody's kind of backing Tennessee because they are bucking the trend of giving these players whatever they want. So I do think that they obviously gained a lot of respect and they look like the good guys here. I don't know that they're totally blameless, as I alluded to earlier. I don't think they surrounded Nico as well as they could. They also have been marching down this road for quite some time. Maybe they could have cut it off before it reached this point. And at the end of the day, even if they have been forced into a tough situation by making this decision in April, even if it was the causing of the Iamaleavas to force them into this decision, how much are Tennessee fans going to care about that in the fall if they go 7-5 or 6-6? I think you'll see more patience than you typically would. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're in year 4 going into year 5. Like you still gotta win, even if this type of situation pops up. And they have some quarterbacks in the wings, Jake Merklinger, George McIntyre, who I think they have high hopes for, but they're not ready to be starting quarterbacks in 2025. You have Faison Brandon, the number 1 overall player in the country, committed from the class of 2026, a quarterback, but he won't be on campus until next season, and he'll even be a true freshman at that point. So you're kind of the future is bright of that position, but it's bright after 2025. So I do think they look like the good guys right now, but how much will that hold up in the fall if they're not winning football games? Because that there have been concerns and other question marks outside of the quarterback position that could potentially prove detrimental this fall as well. And if you throw this soapbox on top of it, then I do wonder where things will be at. So I would slightly add that Heupel and Tennessee aren't totally blameless. Like they've still got to go out and find a way to win football games this fall. Yeah,
and saw tons of chatter this week. It's kind of a big deal when virtually all of college football is cheering for Tennessee. To your point, Ben, when Alabama fans and Florida fans are kind of siding with you, that kind of paints the public perception there, I guess. One question, you kind of mentioned the 2 QBs on the roster. Does Tennessee do anything in the portal at that position in your mind? Or what's the rumblings, or what could they reasonably expect to get in terms of production, kind of where they're at right now?
I think they'll absolutely add a quarterback out of the portal. I'd be stunned if they don't. I think they have to. Jake Merklinger seems to have had a nice spring, taken a step forward. But again, he was more of a 2 to 3 year developmental quarterback. He was highly ranked to a certain extent, if I remember correctly, kind of like a low 4-star. So that's nothing to scoff at, but it also wasn't what Nico was or George McIntyre was or Faison Brandon is. So he was more of a developmental guy, somebody that you maybe hand the keys to in a 3rd year after Nico moves on in 2026. And George McIntyre, he very athletic, has a lot of potential, but his body is not prepared to hold up in the SEC as a true freshman. I think he's skinnier than Nico was as a true freshman, so he needs to add some weight. So I don't think it would be very smart. From where those two guys are at right now, I don't think they're ready to be full-time starters, especially George. It would come down to, okay, can Merklinger handle this thing? Maybe he surprises me, but I think it would be the wrong decision to not add somebody, especially because I think Tennessee is in a very attractive spot for quarterbacks, and I think quarterbacks are already kind of knocking on the door, asking questions, expressing their interest because of how friendly this offense is for quarterbacks and what it did with Hendon Hooker, what it did with even Joe Milton, Nico to a certain extent. So I think it would be a bad decision just from, okay, you don't have anybody ready as of April 14th. You also only have two guys. I don't there aren't many walk-on options. You had two last year in Gaston Moore and Ryan Damron. Both of those two guys moved on. So from a pure number standpoint, I think you have to go add a third quarterback. And I think it would be somebody that is probably going to be a starter if they do add somebody. And we'll see who jumps in the portal. We kind of know how college football works behind the scenes. They're turning over every stone, and I think there would be a lot of position or a lot of interest in that position. So I think they'll add somebody, and I think it'll be somebody that has a proven track record and is walking into a situation to where Heupel may not come out and say it. I'm sure he'll say that there'll be a quarterback competition in the fall, but we kind of all know that, okay, this guy's going to be the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Ben, really quickly before we let you go, we would be remiss not to talk about the Tennessee baseball Vols going on the road to Oxford this past weekend and winning 2 out of 3 against a really good Ole Miss team. Liam Doyle, absolutely phenomenal in his start, striking out 14, a career high, or tied a career high rather, the other night. And obviously Reese Chapman with a big go-ahead 2-run homer yesterday. How big of a win, for a series win overall, was that for the Vols?
Yeah, it was massive, especially considering what happened last weekend when they played Texas A&M and just played awful baseball on that Saturday when they were swept in the doubleheader. And Tony was very frustrated after that A&M series about how A&M wanted it more than his team. And that's kind of one of the calling cards about Tony Vitello baseball at Tennessee is that his team typically has more grit than the other team. And that was absent against Texas A&M. And that sat poorly with him, and I think it rubbed a lot of the players the wrong way as well. They were very upset with themselves in that regard. So to go to Oxford, it's a top 10 team. At least it was this weekend. They've fallen out of the top 10 in a couple of rankings, but they're still like 11 or 12. To win a top 10 series on the road in one of the best environments in the SEC and in college baseball, that's a huge win and a huge bounce back. And even in the midst of that, not only were you dealing with the adversity of the A&M series loss, but you didn't play good baseball on Saturday, and you didn't play really good baseball throughout Game 3 on Sunday. Very, very sloppy at times, and as sloppy as it was, as many mistakes as they had, they were lucky to walk out of there with a series win. It is rare that a team makes that many mistakes on the road against that level of opponent in that environment and walks away with a series win. So I think it does speak to the grit that Tennessee does have that it lacked against A&M. And it speaks to that, hey, this team's one of the best teams in the country and has a chance to go win a second consecutive national championship, because what they did this weekend was not easy. I was there, and the atmosphere, it was hostile, not only for Andrew Fisher and Liam Doyle, but you had Ole Miss fans after they won on Saturday kind of walking the concourse down Tennessee's foul line. Tennessee's dugout was on the third base side, and they were screaming expletives at them in a quiet situation and giving them the bird and kind of leaning over the rail, running their mouth quite a bit.
That doesn't sound like Ole Miss fans.
Yeah. No, it doesn't at all. So to be able to pull off a series win when you didn't play your best baseball in that type of environment, I think it says a lot about the potential of this baseball team.
I'm with you, Ben. Big win for Tennessee, kind of showing that grit, and you will have to step on their throat and make them take their last breath if you want to get a win, certainly get a series win versus them. Ben McKee of Go Vols 24/7, our good friend. He always brings the knowledge from up on Rocky Top, and hopefully, Ben, we can bring you back under maybe less chaotic times, but we're just kind of on pause or on hold right now for the next little mini controversy. There's always something in Knoxville, right?
That's right. There's always something going on.
It gives you something to write about. So, Ben, we thank you for your time as always. We will catch up with you real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Y'all have a great week.
Perfect. You too, Ben. That was Ben McKee of Go Vols 24/7. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. It is at Ben McKee 14. Always good to catch up. David and I will talk a little bit more, kind of expound upon Nico Gate, if you will, coming up in our third hour. But before we close this first hour on Main Street Sports today, we do dip our toe into a little MLB talk. We will talk Braves. We'll talk a little Astros. We'll also talk the rest of Major League Baseball. And stay tuned, folks. On the other side of this timeout, it'll be This Day in Braves History. David and I will break it down on the other side of this timeout. You are watching Main Street Sports today, presented, as always, by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Welcome back, folks. This day in Braves history. I'm going to do my best, folks. Again, Mo's out this week on vacay, so I will attempt to do this segment justice. But on this day in Braves history, we wind back the clock to 2014. That would be April 14th, 2014, where Dan Uggla homered twice, including a ninth-inning grand slam to help the Atlanta Braves win 9-6 over the Phillies. Uggla, Evan Gattis, and Andrelton Simmons went back-to-back in the eighth inning of that game, putting the Braves ahead 5-1. The Phillies, however, scored 5 times in the bottom half, setting the stage for Uggla's ninth inning heroics. Again, that is this day in Braves history. A little Dan Uggla shout out. And David, as we get into current Braves history, as in this season, it's been an interesting week for Atlanta. We were riding high, Braves fans were, after taking 2 or 3 from Philadelphia, only to take the trip to the new digs, the temporary digs of the Tampa Bay Rays, right, dropping the Friday game 6-3, rallying for and getting a win in the series 5-4 Saturday, but they fell yesterday 8-3. I guess 2 questions. What do you take away from the Tampa series immediately, if anything, and where is your panic level as that drops Atlanta to 4-11 through midway through this month of April?
Yeah, I think this is an overarching answer for you, Wade. I think that it's 15 games into the year, right? So it's a small sample size of 162 game season. But I think there's been at several points this year where you thought, the light switch had flipped on for the Braves, and they kind of figured things out. Whether it was that 10-run barrage against the Marlins in the home opener, or Saturday, when they fight back, hit home runs, 2 home runs in the 8th inning with Ozzie Albies and Sean Murphy to tie the game. Michael Harris with a 2-run homer in the 9th to give them the eventual lead and win. And you're like, all right, this offense is really starting to try to figure it out. And then they come out on Sunday against Joe Boyle, who just got recalled from AAA Durham for the Rays, and they didn't have a base runner through the first 5 innings of the ball game against a guy who's notoriously walked people in AAA and struggled to throw strikes. So it's like, once you think the offense hasn't figured it out, they show you the next night that it's not quite there yet. And so I think for me, the panic meter is a 5 or a 6. I'm just teetering over the edge. I know it's early, but being 4-11 is never a good way to start the year, trying to play catch up. It puts a lot of stress on Spencer Strider when he comes back on Wednesday, when Ronald Acuna comes back here in mid-May, to produce right away off, major surgeries. And I think that's really unrealistic to ask. I thought the Braves had done a good job this offseason of trying to address left field. I just saw today that's a position they spent $70 million between Profar and Jared Kelenic the last 2 offseasons trying to address. Well, Profar suspended for 80 games for PEDs, and Jared Kelenic has not lived up to his prospect status, even though the Braves thought they could fix him in his hitting difficulties. So I know that's a very long-winded answer, but I think there is concern there offensively with their inability to score runs, especially with runners in scoring position. And then the Braves bullpen has left a lot to be desired as well. And so I think, a leaky bullpen paired with a sometimes inefficient offense doesn't spell a lot of relief for Braves fans and makes them want to have a lot of tums during those middle innings. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you're on to something, right? To me, it seems like a ship that's kind of taking on water, and you kind of get one whole patch to an extent, and then another one is kind of popped loose. They haven't, at least in my estimation, haven't figured out everything kind of consistently yet. And I guess that's how the record, everything, water was really pouring in at the start of the season, and then it's kind of gone to this patchwork model. I feel like at their best, they certainly are one of the best. But the thing that worries me, David, you kind of touched on it. Yes, 4-11, 15 games in, plenty of time to right the ship, as it were. But the only thing that is troublesome is you're not really chasing one team, but also 2, because suddenly the Mets have seemingly caught fire. They've won 8 out of their last 10 after they had a very shaky start. So the 2 teams you thought you would be fending off, you're now kind of chasing in New York and Philadelphia. And that's the concerning part for me. If you had to leap one of those teams, I'd feel a little bit better. But having to leap both, it's going to be tough for Atlanta, it seems like. They're capable, but it seems like it could be a tough challenge.
Yeah, and I'll give the Braves pass if you want to be optimistic on this sense. They had a really tough schedule to start the year. 4 games in San Diego to start the year, then followed by 3 against the defending world champion Dodgers. So that's a really tough 7-game road trip to start the year on the West Coast. And, with the Braves not being fully healthy to start the year, that you knew there could be some bumps in the road, if that makes sense, on that first road trip. So we'll see how they do, but you definitely want to take advantage of, playing the Twins this weekend, who are below 500, playing the Cardinals this upcoming homestand as well. But, I think this past series was frustrating because that Tampa Bay ballpark is very short dimensions. It's Yankee Stadium-esque. And with the Braves lineup the way it's configured, you would think, man, they could really do some damage in this ballpark and hit a lot of home runs to get off that snide. And they just didn't do that this weekend.
Atlanta, again, 4-11. Tampa Bay, for what it's worth, 7-8. So, they're not just a bottom feeder. It was a competitive series, I think.
Right.
It was always going to be a competitive series, even if Atlanta was playing better. To your point, the Braves currently are 17th in the majors in overall team average, batting around 227. They were very slow to start offensively. And, David, the final point for me, I guess, is we've seen Atlanta at their best, and we know that lineup is capable of great things. We certainly know the rotation of great things. Their optimism is not necessarily unfounded, right? It's not just blind optimism. It'll be a challenge, no doubt, but this is a team that even on paper is certainly capable of doing that. So you got to feel at least somewhat confident still at this point.
Yeah, you're definitely hoping that offense can find a way to turn things around, especially when Ronald Acuna comes back. I mean, it's no secret that they've really scuffled ever since he went down with his torn ACL last year. And that happens, when lineups lose superstars, it's not going to be the same. And it's unfair to ask, replacement players or backup players to give Ronald Acuna MVP production. So we'll see what they do. But I think really the concern for me is offense ability to score runs with runners in scoring position, and just the bullpen with the injuries it's had. And, you have a lot of journeyman relievers in the back end of that pen, and asking them to eat high leverage innings is very hard for them if that's something they've never done before.
No doubt. More on the Braves again tomorrow. Hopefully I did this day in Braves history justice. I'll get another crack at it tomorrow with Blaine Keller sitting in the saddle. That does bring us to my beloved Astros, who are better record-wise, David, but that's why I kind of touched on the Braves point the way that I did. I don't necessarily feel I only feel confident because it seems like the AL West rather is kind of just a hodgepodge. Texas looked great to start. The Angels have been kind of sneaky good. Seattle is coming on. It kind of, I've made this comparison several times. It kind of feels like the NFC South in football. It's kind of some ugly baseball in terms of your standings at the moment. So my only optimism is that Houston's kind of playing in a, quote, bad division at the moment because they are certainly not playing their best, but they have kind of somehow got their way to a 7-8 mark, including taking 2 of 3 versus the Angels this weekend.
I think the thing for you guys is you got off to a really rough start last year, and you saw how hot you guys got in the second half down the stretch of the season and made your way into the playoffs. I think you guys just had that winning pedigree. Obviously, Houston does a really good job. They have a really good ball club and they have really good players. So I think for you guys, you have some new pieces this year too. Obviously, Isak Paredes is playing third base for you guys. I saw he had a home run this weekend, I believe. You guys are still having some guys fit in their new roles. There's some new faces on that team, but I think you guys have a history of the last couple of years of being competitive and winning and peaking at the right time. I think it's your division until someone proves otherwise.
Oh man, okay. David Wilson, I'm feeling rejuvenated here. I was kind of putting a little.
The Angels are off to a good start, though. I'm a big fan of Ron Washington. Obviously, that's a Braves guy, Eric Young Jr. They're the former Braves club. There's several Braves players, Soler, d'Arnaud, on that roster. Ian Anderson. So they're the Braves West. So they have some good players, but I still think that's Houston. It's their division until someone proves otherwise.
I'm with you, whether I want to admit it or not. They've kind of got the pedigree, and that division, may not be the best, but somebody's got to win it. So we'll keep tabs on that.
Blaine will fight with you on it tomorrow.
Yeah. We'll
on the group.
We'll go to battle. That'll be must-see TV here on Main Street Sports today. David, before we close, the last time we saw Paul Skeens, he gave up 5 runs, which Mo and I kind of had to dig deep. It was certainly the most he'd given up in the majors, the most he'd given up in college. We don't think there's any real way he probably realistically gave up 5 runs even in high school or little league. So does Paul Skeens, who will toe the rubber at 540 today versus the Nationals, what kind of bounce back performance do you maybe see out of your reigning National League Rookie of the Year?
I think you got to think at least double-digit Ks, right?
He's going to be gunning for it, right?
I mean, that man, his demeanor is so calm and relaxed. I mean, it's the easiest 100 miles per hour you might ever see. And he's so, routine oriented. He's very calm. I don't think you worry about it. It's just a blip on the radar. It happens. I think he'll come out this afternoon ready to fire some BBs against the Nats.
I'm looking forward to it because, when he is dealing, he is
better than Nats
electric.
The Braves.
Yeah. Yes. Good luck. Good luck to the Nats. Maybe Skeens is going to do Atlanta a favor there. I like what you're on to there. So that wraps up our first hour of Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance. We still have more, though, folks. Coming up in hour number 2, we will talk at 3:20 with the great VALAIR SHABILLA of 615soccer.com. We'll talk about NSC and their big win. David and I will also, to close the show, we're tying up any loose ends on things that we missed as part of the Monday Mirror. And then coming up immediately after this timeout, we'll go back into the Nico saga, get David's take, kind of get my thoughts there on whether it's a good move for Nico, whether it's a good move for the Vols. Is it a bad move for either one? Is it good or bad for both? We'll break all that down. We'll also talk about why a new NFL team is suddenly potentially in the quarterback market And we're talking about a starting quarterback. So stick around, folks. Hour 1 is in the books. Hour number 2 right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilai Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome back, boys and girls. Hour number 2 of Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Alongside David Wilson, Wade Neely sitting in the saddle. Good to be with everybody here on the Monday Mirror edition of the program. And David, the only thing hotter, perhaps, than the live stream of Coachella this weekend was the news around Rocky Top as Nico Iamaleava transfers, is cut, is traded, whatever way you want to phrase it. He's no longer with the program. We talked about it on the show Friday that there might be some smoke. There might be some small fire. It turned into full-blown fire. And back in our first hour, we chatted with Ben McKee of GoVols 24/7. And this is something I know you and I have kind of wanted to break down a little further. And so the question kind of becomes, Ben gave us a lot of good stuff. I'm just curious, is this something you potentially saw coming? Ben kind of mentioned, hey, there'd kind of always been this kind of NIL. I don't want to use the term baggage, but it's the best I could think of. But there kind of always been this baggage with this kid and in regards to money and NIL. Did we reach the tipping point? And I guess I'm curious, your breakdown of what we saw over the weekend in Rocky Top.
Yeah, Wade, I think we all potentially saw this coming in one way or another. Did we know it was going to be the University of Tennessee and Nico? Probably not, but I think Nick Saban had kind of forewarned us about this situation with NIL. It's the wild, wild west. And, there is no rules and regulations set in place when it comes to managing NIL and I guess all these things that come with that, right? We've left it up to the states, and the individual states have certain rules about NIL and so on and so on. So I think we all knew this was coming, where we could potentially have a quote unquote holdout, where a player felt like they weren't getting paid what they were worth, and they were going to test the waters and kind of use jumping in the transfer portal as leverage to try to get some more monetary dollars. Did I think it was going to be this situation? No. And it was kind of for the reason why I asked Ben that question. It wasn't like Nico had a phenomenal year last year where he was in the running for a Heisman Trophy, and Tennessee made it, to the national championship game or to the Final Four. Tennessee was a good football team last year, but you could also say that was a lot of predicated on their defense and their ability to run the football instead of throwing the football. So I guess to your answer question, no, I'm not surprised we got to this point. I'm just surprised with the scenario and the events that transpired of last year and the stats that Nico had. I mean, he came into the year, the kid had yet to start a regular season football game. He did start the bowl game against Iowa several years ago, but he was a guy that was talked about in the Heisman Trophy talk before the season started. Knowing with what Josh Heupel's system produced with Hendon Hooker and with his 5-star talent, you're thinking this is a guy that could win the Heisman Trophy and lead Tennessee to a potential national championship. And just those things against top-tier competition didn't really unfold that way.
No, and there's a lot to unpack here. And, I mean, we could literally spend the entire show going small picture and big picture as well. No real way to know this, David, but, I mean, hey, it's sports radio, so we kind of got to do what we got to do. How does this end up in your mind for Nico? We talked about Ben mentioned a couple schools, maybe vying for his services, and they are not Ohio State, Oregon, etc. It's kind of North Carolina and Tulane. Is that where he ends up, and what does he potentially make, other than, I guess, some money? What does he make of the rest of his college career in your mind?
Right. I think Ben hit the nail on the head when it comes to, I think he really overplayed his hand in this situation. I think the end goal, I think his representatives might have been short-sighted. The goal is to get to the NFL, right? And to be a first-round draft pick and put yourself in position to make that long-term money at the NFL and get that contract. I think they were very short-sighted in the sense of trying to get money now while he's an amateur at the college level, right? So, I don't think you're not playing against the same competition if you go to Tulane as you are as the meat grinder of the SEC. Would it be a good situation for someone like that to learn under Bill Belichick and, someone who's done it at the professional level? Sure. But, to me, that idea of jumping into the portal for more money, going to play for Bill Belichick, who's notorious at the Patriots for, preaching team and culture, that doesn't seem like the best fit either in my mind. So I feel like he's kind of just waiting till this, spring practice era and this time period ends to see what places have a quarterback opening left, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that's what's going to be fascinating to me. And this is, I guess, a similar comparison, but I heard someone make this point earlier today. The situation with Diego Pavia and in Vanderbilt coming back to college kind of realistically makes more sense financially for a guy that might end up on a roster, unlikely to perhaps start, no disrespect, but just kind of where he grades at the moment. That might make the most financial sense, right? But to your point, Nico's a guy that comes in so highly rated. His ceiling seemingly, could be first overall draft pick if he were to reach that ceiling. So to your point, yeah, the NFL is the end goal. And man, this does feel like a massive overplay on the, I don't know if it's camp, agent, representatives, however this all played out. It feels like they really overplayed their hand and might have ultimately stunted his growth financially and at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I think Ben also made a really good point. I want to give him credit for that. If you're a college program looking for a quarterback and you consider bringing in Nico, I think that sends a message to some players and to the fan base, quote unquote, to boosters, that you kind of accept that behavior as okay, if that makes sense, to hold out on your team, to miss meetings, to miss practices for more money. And you're bringing in, as you kind of mentioned, the baggage, quote unquote, that comes with that family of wanting more money and playing their hand and being very open with their cards. I mean, there's so many quarterbacks from this spring portal window. Me, as the resident Notre Dame fan of the group, Notre Dame has a three-way quarterback battle, and I promise you, one of those guys is probably going to end up in the transfer portal that's worthy of starting somewhere. So it's not like there are not quarterbacks out there available that could start for your program, if that makes sense. So I think you have to take a look and assess him as a young man, assess him as a family, talk and have those conversations. But there's going to be jobs and openings available across the country.
I think so. And Ben touched on it, and you kind of walked down that path too. And I have an article pulled up on CBS Sports kind of breaking down the top 25 or top 10. Drop that in the show notes there for you just now. But the article reads brilliantly for Tennessee. They have them preseason number 9 in the CBS poll. And they said this time last week, this would have read a lot different. But now the need is obviously quarterback. And Ben framed it up best. You do have a couple guys, and it'd be nice to see them, come out and perform well. But the talent around these other players, Tennessee's not really in a rebuild. The fans certainly are never thinking rebuild mode, but the roster kind of dictates the need for a solid quarterback. And you're right. That's the thing to me, Dave, that I am going to be extremely fascinated by. A kid on campus at insert school here, he may be totally content to stay there, but all of a sudden, Tennessee comes open. That offense is so friendly for the quarterback. Man, it feels like it will get some interest, and Tennessee could do some damage. It would be really funny if they went out and spent about, $4 million to get a transfer quarterback this year, would it not?
Quarterbacks are very expensive, to say the least. Definitely, in this, if you're going to go play for a top 10 program, it's going to take a good chunk of change for you to sway that way. I feel like, as Ben said, Tennessee has more leverage here, and I want to give credit to Josh Heupel. They gained respect out of me for that stance that they took and said,
yes,
we're going to move on with the guys that we have. But there's going to be guys that are interested in that Tennessee job for the system that Heupel runs, how quarterback friendly it is, how wide open spacing it is, to look at that as a possibility and say, I might hop into the portal for that Tennessee job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is it in a weird way? Is this not a good thing for Josh Heupel, especially, and for the Vols? Short term, yeah, you don't have a quarterback for at least the next couple of weeks, perhaps. But long term, yeah, if I'm a kid at another campus, hey, I want to go play for that guy because he has the program's best interest at heart, and he's a guy that's going to really pour his soul into coach. In a weird way, it feels like he might have not only bought himself some grace this season, Josh Heupel, that is, but also set himself up for success down the road in the recruiting game.
Right. The only downside in my mind for Tennessee is you're going to bring in a guy most likely out of the transfer portal who's going to be your starter, but he does not have those reps from spring ball. It's very limited when you go into fall camp of trying to learn the offense, trying to learn the offensive line, trying to learn the wide receiving core. It's going to take some time. So I definitely think that the Tennessee fan base, those first couple weeks of the year, if it is a transfer quarterback taking the opening day start behind center, that there's some patience there to know that this guy hasn't been in Josh Heupel's system for most of his career, obviously. And he wasn't here for spring practice to get the bulk of the reps, if that makes sense, and play in a spring game.
I'm with you. That's really kind of the only downside. Yes, you may get a talented guy, but it's going to be very, very limited reps, kind of getting caught up to speed for what seems like a pretty complicated offense. That'll be a steep learning curve, perhaps. Keeping things in college football real quick. David, there's a new college football team. Were you aware that Chicago State is launching football? Not only did they launch the football program, they're getting ready to get cranked up here in another season or two. They have a new head coach. I was unaware that Chicago State was even toying with the idea of football, but that's apparently some of the news according to footballscoop.com.
So that's the one thing I learned today then. I did not know that Chicago State had a football team. I guess you're going to inform us all.
Well, like I said, I was unaware of this, but Chicago State has not only rapidly accelerated their programs, but they will be competing at the FCS level, and they have named their new leader as Bobby Rome II, was introduced earlier as the Chicago State inaugural football coach. He said in a statement, "The future starts now, and we're ready to get going." Pretty standard stuff there, but they announced that they had over 230 applicants ranging from folks with NFL experience to collegiate experience. Even some of the top high school ranks kind of drew some interest. And supposedly, quote unquote, supposedly, one of the names mentioned for that was Alcorn head coach Fred McNair. So kind of a familiar name there for folks in this region. But Rome II, he had a couple of different stops. He had coached kind of in and around various levels of football, but he had most recently been the head coach at Florida Memorial, posting back-to-back winning seasons in 23-24. So I don't have a Chicago State jersey or a helmet yet, but if I want to get one, I now have the option. They're going to launch in 2026, so they won't even potentially they're probably not going to be in this year's college football game, but hey, once we start adding FCS schools to the PlayStation mix here, Dave, you might be able to get some run with Chicago State, it sounds like.
There you go. That sounds good to me.
I'm looking forward to it. So some NCAA kind of a bow there. We try and end things on a positive note. Best of luck to Chicago State. And again, Bobby Rome II is their new head coach. David, let's go to NFL gears. Switch gears to the NFL real quick. Speaking of quarterbacks, there is a team that is suddenly in dire need of one. Reports coming out over the weekend that Derek Carr, man, who has been kind of snake bit with injuries at times, seemingly has left the Saints in a very precarious situation, dealing with a shoulder injury that could threaten his availability for almost the entire 2025 season. Give me your thoughts on Carr, the Saints, and what potential avenues that they might take now. A team that was essentially not going to be that bad, but not necessarily going to be that great, now suddenly with another quarterback situation on their hands.
Yeah, Wade, if I believe to be correct, this is a team that's very up against the cap. They're in the negative, I believe. So it's money is a really hard issue for them. So for them to go out and sign a quarterback, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So this might be a team in the first round of the NFL draft. I believe they have maybe like the 9th pick. You can fact check me on that. I think they're at the back half of the top 10. Might be looking for a quarterback in the first round, just to have an insurance policy. I know Spencer Rattler got a lot of starts for them last year and obviously left kind of a lot to be desired for them. So they were one of those teams coming into the offseason that was potentially looking for a quarterback as well to kind of part ways with Derek Carr and his contract. So I think this is a team that could be in the potential for a quarterback in the first round. If it's Shedeur Sanders, is it Jackson Dart, whoever kind of falls to them in that mold right there.
Absolutely. And you are correct. They do pick 9th. And that was my immediate question. Seemingly, the Titans are all but assured to be drafting Cam Ward. Obviously, anything could change between now and the time the selection is turned in next Thursday. But seemingly he goes as QB1. And it kind of felt like Shedeur Sanders was just going to be, in some regards, the odd man out. All these other teams that needed quarterbacks had kind of addressed that issue. But then this injury pops up. Does this mean the Saints maybe take a swing on Sanders at number 9 in your mind?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to how they evaluate and what kind of system they want to run. Obviously, this is a new head coach, I believe, as well. Kellen Moore stepping in from Philadelphia as the offensive coordinator of the Eagles. Does he want his own guy, and what kind of system does he want to run? Does Shedeur Sanders fit that? Just that Jackson Dart fit that? I think a lot of people are enamored with Jackson Dart's ability to throw the football. I mean, he's a deep ball thrower. He has really good accuracy on that. Obviously, Lane Kiffin is a wide open run and gun offense at Ole Miss. It's a question. I think for me, the real question is Shedeur Sanders an option for the Giants? You know, do they consider that even though they signed Jameis and Russell Wilson? But if Shedeur falls to 9 right there, if the Saints, you at least have to kick the tires on it in my mind.
I think you're right. And seemingly, again, it felt like Shedeur was not necessarily through any fault of his own, but just kind of the way that teams had addressed their issues. He was kind of sliding, right? It felt like he may end up going in the back half of the first round, if even the first round at all. But now all of a sudden, there is a need. So to me, that's a compelling storyline. If the Giants pass on a QB at 3, which if they were to be a QB, it would seemingly be Sanders. That would be an option. But here's one for you, David. Wouldn't be a little segment here without a potential little bit of fun or hypothetical. One of the scenarios posed in this CBS article says, what if you let Spencer Rattler have the job? And I've kind of enjoyed, I know they went 0-6 in his games that he started last season. I think I'm not totally convinced that he might not be at least a serviceable NFL starting quarterback. I'm kind of jury still out there. But what if What if the Saints decided, you know what, maybe we just kind of take this season for what it is. Maybe we end up with the number 1 pick in next year's
you're
draft.
going for Arch. You're going for Arch.
What? Wouldn't it be crazy? This is I wish this were my own creation, but this is on CBS Sports here. But what if they drafted the grandson of the legend Archie Manning, who they took in the first round of the 1971 draft, picking his grandson 55 years later? That would be compelling, would it not?
It would be compelling. It'd be very cool, and I'm sure Arch would love to play for his hometown team. And I'm sure Archie would love to have his grandson playing for the hometown Saints. I think it's really hard, though, to sell to a fan base tanking. I mean, I think the Titans fan base. The idea to sell tanking to the Titans fan base was not been good. You want to win football games. That's how you put butts in the seats and you sell tickets. And obviously that's a vital entity of an organization. Selling tanking isn't always the best way to win. So, and it's hard to sell that to players as well. They're putting their life, their body, their limbs on the line. And so I get it. And I see the fantasy, but those guys are going to go out there and play hard. That's for sure.
I feel like you're right. And Mo and I have talked about that many, many times, especially in football. That's like the one sport where even when you try and tank, there's the injury factor. And, you're such a physical sport. It kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. But it'd be something to keep our eyes on. And if they do decide to roll with Rattler, and again, I think he maybe could be decent. But then again, who knows? Maybe Arch look at that salary cap situation, that salary cap hell, as I've called it, and they say, you know what, we don't want any part of the Saints till you get the books looking a little better. But something to keep an eye on, because it seems like Derek Carr is going to be out for an extended, if not the entire 2025 season. Again, we're a little over a week away from the NFL draft. We will have much more draft coverage next week on the show. We'll have a little bit more this week, but we certainly will have more as we tip into next week. So that was one set of football, NCAA and NFL. We have a different type of football entirely coming up on the other side of our timeout. After this break, we're going to talk about NSC and their big win on Saturday night, winning late 2-1 versus Real Salt Lake. And our good friend VALAIR SHABILLA from 615soccer.com is set to join us on the other side of this timeout. It'll be right after this, so make sure you come back with us. Alongside David Wilson, Wade Neely here, and this is Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, rolling right along. Hour number 2. That's David Wilson. Wade Neely here, sitting in the saddle. Mo on vacation this week. He's somewhere out in the Atlantic Ocean, I believe.
Somewhere tropical and nice.
Yeah, he's fled for warmer waters, but it's pretty warm outside here. But thanks to David for filling in today. Blaine Keller will be with us tomorrow, and we'll have a special announcement about our guests on Wednesday coming up in a little bit. Speaking of guests, though, I couldn't think of anybody better to talk about a thrilling victory for NSC Saturday night at home versus Real Salt Lake. He is the one, the only. He is VALAIR SHABILLA of 615 Soccer, and he joins us now in his Arsenal gear. I'll go ahead and get that out of the way. We'll acknowledge the elephant in the room right there, but welcome, VALAIR.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And VALAIR, let's just kind of dive right in. Didn't get to go to the match Saturday, only got to catch a little bit on television, but you kind of painted the picture, and the folks at 615 Soccer kind of painted the picture. Not the greatest start for NSC, but the second half, they really kind of dominated, it seemed. And then ultimately secured it late with a Sam Surge PK. Kind of rate that match for us, or break it down for us, if you will. But they do get all 3 points at home.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where Nashville SC, the last 2 games, if you watch them play, they played really well for large stretches of both games and did a lot to really sort of grant themselves maybe not a win, but maybe it should have been at least a draw of some sort. But what happened is that they lost both games late in the match after the 90th minute from a penalty against Cincinnati at home, and then in Charlotte from just a defensive collapse, if you would, towards the end there. But they played well enough to at least earn themselves a point in those games, and I think they were both very disappointed to come out of both of them with 0 points. So when you look at this match and see them kind of not only win at home, but win in a way that they've lost the last 2 games in the last minute with a penalty, where they've struggled to score a penalty, I think it's going to be a huge boost, not only for the players in terms of confidence, but also for the fans, because playing well is important. Playing well is something that Nashville SC fans have been wanting to see for a long time. But at the end of the day, this is a results business, and there's, I just don't buy into this whole thing where like, oh, I would rather play well and lose than, tie and not play too well. I just don't think that's realistic. I think at the end of the day, you have to create results and get results for yourself, and being able to get that result at home in front of those, fairly engaged crowd that saw a match where Nashville SC created and huffed and puffed and weren't able to get it from open play. But at the end of the day, Sam Surge slots it in from the penalty spot and, gets them the win.
And VALAIR, that's kind of a point I think you kind of walked into there. What does it say about this NSC team on a night where slow to start, but you get level, and then seemingly outplaying Real in the second half, maybe potentially staring at a draw, wishing you had the 3 points, but you somehow find a way to win? We talked about, this is a weird parallel, but the University of Tennessee baseball team, defending champs, so you got to just drive the nail through their heart before you can beat them. What does that say about Nashville's spirit, being able to battle deep into the match and finally do get the PK goal to get all 3 points?
Yeah, I think it's something that BJ Callahan talks about every time, and it's the resiliency that this team has. And I think the biggest thing, I know it's a cliche, but it's the belief that this team has in themselves and in the process and the coaching staff. From day one of BJ Callahan being in Nashville, he wanted to focus on the process rather than the results. And I think that's something that he has been able to transfer onto his players. And they now carry that mantle of believing in the process, believing in themselves, and believing in the coaching staff. And what we have seen with Nashville SC these days is they create so many chances that it's a numbers game. If you create enough chances, eventually you're going to score some of them. And yeah, I think everybody watching that game will tell you Nashville SC should have better finishing, especially from Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surge towards the end of the first half. They both missed pretty easy opportunities, especially for Mukhtar. But if you create enough, you will score some of them. And I think that's something that's very new to Nashville SC, really, because it was the complete opposite with Gary Smith, where it was you create very few chances, but you don't let the opposition score. So, the very few chances you hope to turn into goals, and there you go, 1 goal, 2 goals. But now Nashville SC are creating, I think the XG, the expected goals for them in this match ended up being at 3.65, which is a lot. I know that includes a penalty. So even if you take the penalty out of it, 2.65, that's a really respectable XG when it comes to, those sort of metrics. So if you create enough, eventually those chances are going to follow your way. And they were due a winner like that after, like I said, happened in the last 2 games.
Hey, Valar, obviously Walker Zimmerman still working through the concussion protocol, missed this past home game. That coincides with Palacios' debut on the defense for Nashville. Kind of talk about what you saw from him and kind of how he kind of keyed them back to victory.
Yeah, I was really impressed with him, honestly. He's a very much an unknown when it comes to MLS, when it comes to Nashville specifically. Even he's someone who not many people have even heard of him, and I think that kind of maybe been missed.
Oh, we lost Valair momentarily there, at least on my screen.
Oh, come back.
He'll come back to us here in just a moment. Valair Shabilla, our soccer expert at 615soccer.com. You can follow Valair on Twitter. It's at Valair Shabilla, but you can also follow 615 Soccer for all of his, as well as our good friend Ben Wright, their coverage there. And yes, Valair's coming back in, and while he is working his way back in, man, just in the blink of an eye, he was gone, but in the blink of an eye, he's back. Welcome back, Valair. Sorry,
I have no idea what happened there. This is the first time I'm doing this from my phone, so I apologize for the issues. I'm having some issue with my computer, so I'm not in my usual setup, and this happened. So apologies.
No apology needed. We respect the effort nonetheless. So,
of course. But I was talking about Palacios, and I think I was saying he's an unknown because a lot of people hadn't seen him play, especially not in MLS circles. But in all honesty, he has over 200 professional appearances. This is not a guy who's coming here to just kind of, be a cover or be a backup. So I think he saw his opportunity and he was able to take it. When you saw somebody like Walker Zimmerman go down, he was able to come into the team and not only do enough to where he didn't play himself out of contention, play well enough to where he is, I think, in that contention for the center back role. His start was a little iffy, but like we talked about, the whole team started kind of iffy, honestly. So I don't think you can put much on him, but he grew into the game with Nashville SC. And I thought towards the end of the first half, all the way into the rest of the game, I thought he shut a lot of attacks down and was very lively. And he's a little faster for a big guy, honestly, for how tall he is. So all in all, I think he impressed me, and he was able to kind of cover well enough for somebody who has been captain of the U.S. men's national team, Walker Zimmerman.
is that a guy in your mind, Valair, that when Zimmerman returns, is that a guy that's good enough now, or shown enough that they're going to find ways to get him out there?
Yeah, I think for BJ Callahan, I think he always knew he was good enough, but it always required some proof to be given. And I think now that he's actually had MLS minutes, I think he's going to be in contention to maybe take over for Jack Mayer. It might not be every game, but I think there's a very good chance for him to be in the squad with Walker Zimmerman as well.
Makes sense. And David just asked about Walker Zimmerman. What is the latest? How soon can we expect him back? This week? Next week?
I mean, it's concussion protocol, and it's the same thing in all sports, really. It's one of those things where you can't really guess, or it's an injury that you definitely don't want to push at all in any way, shape, or form. You want it to take its time. I would be a little surprised if he comes back for the Seattle game this weekend. But maybe the game after that, I can totally see him sort of making either making the bench or starting. But I think overall he's going to want to play. The team wants him to play, but you have to respect the injury and you have to respect the concussion protocol. And that protocol is there for a reason. I just think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get back to that point.
While we're talking Saturday, who else stood out to you in that 2-1 victory at Geodis?
A few of the guys did. I will say it's always been since the start of the season. Eddie Taxas has been just an incredible addition to this team. Coming in first time in MLS, first time in America, being able to kind of take on a very important role of not only creating forward but also covering so much ground. At one point, I think it was like the 70th minute or something. Ben Wright, who sits next to me in the press box, looked at me and said, "Eddie Taxas has already run 6 miles." And that's not even the full time. And I'm like, okay, that's crazy, to think about. So not only does he cover that ground, he's able to create something going forward. Like I said, I believe he's on 3 assists this season already. He hasn't got a goal yet, but for a midfielder that came in, and this is his first season, especially now playing in that deeper role, this is the best start. This is a dream start for a new signing. So he's been definitely on my list, and then. I think another newcomer in Andy Nahar has been just a great addition to this team, and honestly, this kind of showcases how well Nashville did in the transfer window to bring in guys like that to kind of take the mantle.
Well, you mentioned Texas. Should we be surprised though? He's got that Norwegian blood in him, right? I mean, there's something with that Viking energy going on. He can run for 6 miles like that, right?
I mean, it's incredible. You watch him on the field, and I've made this comparison before. Maybe I've made it on this show too, but like he plays soccer like a Beyblade. Like he's just around. Like he just goes around. Like it's just never tired. 90th minute, he's running the same speed as it is in the first minute, and I think Nashville needs something like that, especially when you can put a guy like Muyl in front of him, who's also doing that, but maybe a little bit further up the pitch. And then they're both sort of, I think, Norwegian. There's a nickname for him out there, but essentially somebody who bothers the opponent to the point where they are, up in arms. He already has like 4 yellow cards, I think. So, he's kind of on pace to be that yellow card merchant for Nashville SC. But all in all, I mean, you'll take the yellow cards for what he's providing you.
He's been fun to watch. Final question I have. This is a very serious question, Valair. But Saturday also was big because NSC partnered up for a little bit of a unique promotion with the Caesar Canine Night. And so my question immediately for you, Valair, is did you adopt a dog before you left Geodis Park on Saturday?
I did not. Believe it or not, I did not adopt a dog. I know that's what people are gonna be wondering why I didn't do that. And
I mean, I'm immediately wondering right now. So yeah, why not? I guess
I'll put the rumors to rest. I don't want a dog. It's a lot of responsibility. So there you go. I like being free.
I understand, and you have only a finite amount of time in your duties, so it makes sense, right?
That's true. Hey, did you adopt a dog?
I have, but not at a NSC match. I felt bad. I didn't even go Saturday, but I did feel bad when I saw the promotion because me and the wife like to support all the local shelters, and it would have been nice to at least get out there. You did mention the crowd was energized. My question is, we've kind of saw Nashville play well and drop a couple matches. Are they back into form? Do they just kind of pick right back up in your mind? Or what's to come, I guess, for NSC based on what we've seen?
Yeah, if you look at the performances, I don't think there's anything that's hugely different. If you look at the underlying numbers, I mean, the home matches, they usually create more, but that's correct across the league, not just for Nashville SC. Overall, even the away matches, they're looking at a pretty solid team. I do think the results give the confidence that, you can tell yourself the performances are good, but eventually you need some results to back it up. And I think that result is going to help maybe put them back into form. Seattle coming up, that's not an easy trip. You got to go to the west there, and different time zone, and they're flying in earlier than usual, all that stuff. So it's a little bit of a difficult match away from home. But look, at the end of the day, this team believes in itself more than ever, and especially more than the sort of latter point of last season. And I think when the team is believing in themselves that much, and we saw how engaged the crowd was at home, even though the stadium wasn't full by any means, I think it was 25,000 announced crowd number, maybe a little bit fewer, but even though that number isn't a sellout by any means, the crowd that was there was totally into the match until the last minute, gave the team the boost they need. And I think that's that belief from the team is being translated into the crowd as well, and they're believing it as well, to where now they have a team that they are proud of, they want to go see. And I think even though the results might dip here and there, overall this is a team that excites people, that people want to go see, and I think that's a very important thing for a team that lost that pretty much last season.
Yeah, obviously Nashville SC is going on the road this weekend up to Lumen Field in Seattle to face the Seattle team. Kind of preview that matchup for us and what you're kind of expecting out of that contest.
Yeah, Seattle has had a pretty disappointing season so far. For a team that is looking to build up momentum to be in the Club World Cup, one of 2 MLS teams to be in the Club World Cup, which is a pretty big deal. They haven't had the best start to the season, and their big signings were kind of domestic, and Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola, and Arriola unfortunately got injured, and for Jesus Ferreira, he just hasn't hit the ground running yet. So they're kind of depending on Jordan Morris and the younger guys and Paul Rothrock, and sort of depending on their academy to produce those players and the core that they already have. Now that kind of eventually, that quality I do think is going to show from Seattle. It might just take them a little bit. Brian Schmetzer, their coach, has been, one of the best coaches in MLS in terms of being able to get the best out of them. And let's not forget, they are the only team in MLS to win the Champions Cup, or the Champions League, as it was called back then. So this is a very quality full team. This is a very deep team. Maybe they haven't figured things out this early in the season, 8 games in, but don't let that fool you into believing, that's an easy team. So I think at their own stadium, and also with their crowd behind them, one of the best crowds in MLS, it's going to be a very difficult match for Nashville SC. But one thing we've seen from Nashville SC is that they don't change the way they play based on the opponent. They want to assert themselves into the match, and that's something that's honestly been a breath of fresh air for Nashville SC fans, because in past years, you go away to Seattle, you just expect the Nashville SC to sit back and defend, to where now for a fact Nashville SC is going to go out there and try to play their style of soccer, try to play their style and assert their style into Seattle. And, maybe they'll be able to get a result there. I think anything other than a loss would be a pretty good result to come out of the Western Conference with.
Talking with Valair Shabilla of 615soccer.com, breaking down all things NSC, but we will sneak one in real quick, Valair. 2 things. Number one, what do we take away of Anne Hathaway singing her love for the Arsenal, for the Gunners there? And then second of all, yes, they drew in Premier League action this weekend, but it seems like they have their sights on something bigger. Give us a quick preview of the Champions League match, or tie, if you will, that's coming up Wednesday when they got Real Madrid for that second leg.
I'll tell you this. The Premier League as a concept is done for me until August. I don't even care what happens there. It's not important at all. Just whatever there. But I'll tell you this about the Champions League is that the defending champions, Real Madrid, were beaten by Arsenal 3-0 at the Emirates, where Arsenal play at home. 2 amazing free kicks. Even if you don't like soccer, go watch those highlights, because those free kicks are incredible. You will love it. Trust me. On Wednesday, Arsenal go to the Santiago Bernabeu, one of the best stadiums in the world, to face Real Madrid in the reverse fixture is what they call. So it's the second game of the series, if you would. And we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Real Madrid has this knack of being the team that luck is on their side, referees on their side, everybody's on their side. But they are down 3-0. So that's a pretty substantial thing to recover from. We'll see if they're able to pull it through. But I have full belief in the Gunners to pull this through. And after that, it will be either PSG or Aston Villa, depending on results, in the semifinal of the Champions League, which is, for my money, the best soccer competition in the world.
Okay, that was an in-depth breakdown of Champions League, perhaps the only in this show's history. So I knew you would bring the goods, Valair. If you're showing up now after just one 3-0 win in a jersey, I'm curious what you would show up in if they get further in this competition. So I'm kind of curious. I kind of want to see that. So maybe in a weird way, I'm rooting for Arsenal in the Champions League then.
Thank you. I think everybody should root for the Arsenal. If you root for Real Madrid, it's like rooting for the Empire in Star Wars. You shouldn't do that.
I understand, and I will take that into consideration on Wednesday. Should be a fun one. Valair, thank you for your time as always. Great recap of what we saw Saturday, and we look forward to catching up with you soon as NSC continues to roll along in MLS competition.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Valair. That was Valair Shabilla of 615soccer.com. Thanks for joining us yet again. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. It is at Valair Shabilla or at 615soccer. Final segment is just ahead. It'll be the Monday Mirror. We'll kind of tie up some loose ends on what was a crazy weekend. Wild Sunday in NBA action, but the playoff bracket is now set. The Preds are in action. They have 2 final games. Both are at home. One of them is tonight. We'll dip our toe into the NASCAR pool just a little bit. We'll ask David kind of what else caught his eye from this weekend or what's ahead on his personal schedule. That will close us out here. The Monday Mirror segment of the Monday Mirror episode of Main Street Sports Today is right after this. We'll see you in just a moment. Our show today, as always, is sponsored by TOA of Columbia. Hey, let's go Stros.
People are amazed at the variety and quality of guests we bring into Main Street Sports Today. But when you've been in this business for nearly 40 years and you never throw away a phone number, it's pretty easy. Right, Wade?
Absolutely. And Wynn agrees with me. Check out some of our guests featured on Main Street Sports Today.
Step back and catch my breath. But I expect nothing less from you, big boy. Let's get going.
We make it work pretty good. So
the fans are tremendous.
It's fantastic.
It was really amazing.
Yeah.
From preps to pros, you never know who's going to stop by, so be sure to listen to and watch Main Street Sports Today from 2 to 4 p.m. daily on the MSM TV app.
Final segment of the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That is David Wilson, Wayne Neely here. Mo Patton out this week. Tomorrow's program, Blaine Keller will be sitting in the saddle. We'll tell you more about Wednesday's show on Tuesday's show. But it's going to be a fun week. And thanks again to David for joining us here today. It is the Monday Mirror segment. And so let's dive right back in. David, the NBA, man, it feels like this season, I don't know what it is, but this season always drags. I don't want to say drags on, but man, it feels like it feels in some ways like it's longer than MLB, which plays 162 games. But we reached the end of the NBA season yesterday, and we had a little drama as all the jockeying kind of came and shook itself out. And we saw a couple crazy finishes as the Pacers clipped the Cavs in double overtime. But the seeds are set. And I guess my immediate question to you is, anything got your eye in terms of either a matchup or what's to potentially come for the next, as long as the NBA regular season the only thing longer is the NBA postseason, it feels like. What's on your radar as the professionals get ready to crank it up in the postseason?
Yeah, I think our eyes always go to the Western Conference because the Western Conference is absolutely loaded. It's a juggernaut from top to bottom. You think about teams like Golden State having to be in the play-in tournament with Jimmy Butler, with Draymond Green, with Steph Curry. Obviously, they're playing Memphis tomorrow night. You think about Dallas being in the play-in game. And then you think about the top half of the Western Conference. You have Oklahoma City and Houston. And I guess my question is, if you're Houston as the 2 seed and let's say Golden State beats Memphis tomorrow night, do you really want to face Steph Curry and the Warriors in the first round as the 2 seed?
I would say no is the short answer, I guess. The Rockets are a capable team. The Rockets may be the quietest 2 seed in NBA history. It feels like they've had such a great year, but everybody kind of still doubting them. But to your original question, I feel like if you get the Warriors at their best, they're capable of giving a lot of teams problems, maybe even the Thunder in the West. And so if you're the Rockets, to your point, yeah, I would be a little concerned. Memphis has been so inconsistent. I mean, it pains me to say that as a fan, but been so inconsistent, and their ceiling doesn't feel quite as high as the ceiling of the Warriors at this moment. And that play-in game is not a great situation to be in. The last thing you want to do is have Golden State facing a Warriors team that's got a little extra mojo, a little extra confidence coming out of that play-in contest.
You could make the case for every single one of the teams that make the Western Conference playoffs. Once the 7 and 8 seed gets locked up and we have teams there, you can make a case for each one of those teams to make it to the finals. I mean, Oklahoma City, they were the best team in the league all year, but they're a young team. And you don't know, besides Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, is Jalen Williams going to be able to come along and be that 2 for them? Last year in the playoffs, it was just SGA out there by himself.
Yeah.
And so Oklahoma City's a young team. Are they finally going to put the pieces together? Houston, they're a young team. Come playoff time, are they going to be able to put the pieces together and beat some squads like, the Clippers are a really sneaky ball club right now. Norman Powell, James Harden, and a healthy Kawhi Leonard can cause problems for any team in the West. Obviously, you have LeBron and the Lakers as the 3 seed. And then, obviously, Denver, even though they just fired Mike Malone, you got Jokic, and Jokic is a problem with Jamal Murray. So you can make a case for every single one of the teams in the West that they could find a way out of there.
I'm with you. And the Thunder have been so dominant, but man, they have not ascended that mountaintop. So until you see it, it feels like it maybe is fair game. Thunder the 1, Rockets are the 2, Lakers are the 3, Nuggets, Clippers, Wolves, and then the Grizzlies, Kings, and Mavericks play-in game action begins tomorrow night. As David alluded to, the Grizzlies and Warriors, they'll be on TNT tomorrow night in the 7-8 game. That's a 9 o'clock start. Meanwhile, quickly over in the East, the Hawks and Magic will play in the 7-8 game at 6:30 on TNT. Your seeds are set there. Crazy situation. They didn't play at all, and nobody played on Saturday, but the whole Eastern Conference bracket was set after Friday, David. Cavs, Celtics, followed by the Knicks, Pacers, and Bucks. Then the Pistons, Magic, Hawks, Bulls, and the Heat. What's got your eye in the Eastern Conference as we begin tomorrow night?
The Knicks should not sleep on the Detroit Pistons. That Detroit ball club is a really good young team. And I think they beat them 3 out of the 4 times, talking about the Pistons beating New York. I think they beat them 3 out of the 4 times in the regular season. So obviously, if you're the New York Knicks trying to get to the Eastern Conference Finals after last year's kind of magical run through the Eastern Conference playoffs, you have to be leery of that Detroit team that has nothing to lose.
I am with you. I don't know that Detroit will win that series, but man, New York is better be careful, and I think it will be very competitive. I'm looking forward to that. I gave you the Tuesday schedule. Wednesday will be your 9 and 10 games. The loser of that game is done. Heat and Bulls crank up at 6:30 on ESPN. The Mavs and the the Mavs and the Kings will get cranked up at 9 o'clock. NBA action continuing, postseason getting underway tomorrow night. Real quickly, David, speaking of the end of the season, the Preds are in action. It has been a long, difficult season. Mo and I have gone from optimism to groaning to optimism to groaning, and we kind of just have landed with blah. But the Preds close with 2 home games. They got one tonight versus Utah. They also got another one Wednesday versus Dallas. Can we expect anything? Do we take anything away from these last 2 games in your mind?
I was just going to ask you, what do you think the over and the under on the crowd size is going to be?
I'll tell you what, though, I give my sister credit. Mo and I have referenced her a lot. She has been a diehard fan. For somebody that doesn't even live in Nashville, she has attended more games this year than any other season. So props to her for that. She will go to the game tonight versus Utah. And it'll be a fun comparison on tomorrow's show because I will read the official attendance, and then I will ask Sis what the
what
crowd
the
really
actual
felt like.
attendance was.
Yeah, what the real attendance was, if you catch my
There you go.
drift. So good luck to the Preds tonight. Again, taking on Utah and then Dallas later in the week. Real quickly before we close, Kyle Larson wins at Bristol. We will have Heather Williams in our grasp, in our clutches on Wednesday. But did you watch any NASCAR this weekend? Do you got any takeaways from Bristol?
Oh, I'm an absolute NASCAR diehard. You don't know this. Mo has heard of my NASCAR diehardom. Big Kyle Busch fan over here. Kyle Larson absolutely whooped him. He whooped him yesterday at Bristol. Led over 400 laps, I believe. So I think, they going into the weekend, they thought that the tires were going to be at a deficit where after 40 laps in a run, they were going to have to change them. And the weather obviously was a little warmer yesterday across the state of Tennessee than many expected. So the tire fall off was not the same as they predicted or even as last year. So Larson just ran away with it. And other than Denny Hamlin kind of running up to him with 50 laps to go, it was all Kyle Larson yesterday. I think only 9 cars ended up on the lead lap.
Wow. And to your point, this is kind of a mind-blowing stat to me. You're right. 411 of the 500 laps yesterday, he led. And he's led 873 of the last 1,000 laps at Bristol in Cup action. So it seems like maybe the best guy, the best perhaps, pick your poison here, but maybe the best driver in the world, doing best driver in the world things. He certainly has been dominant the last 2 years at Bristol, it seems like.
Yeah, he absolutely whooped them in the fall race last year as well. Kind of referenced that. So it's just, when you get a hold of a place, kind of as Denny Hamlin mentioned on his post-race interview, so once a guy gets a hold of a place and you click on a setup, it can be like that, especially with this next generation car that they have.
I love that. And you didn't know that, but you just signed yourself up for some NASCAR intel. I'm going to you. We got Heather already, but I'm going to you for the real insights. So I'll sound a little smarter the next time Mo asks me a question or two. David, we thank you for joining us today, but I'm curious, what's on tap for you? You mentioned covering some local athletics. Give us the rundown of what a week will look like for you as the sports editor at the Robertson County Connection.
There you go. Heading out to the Briar Patch this afternoon. Station camp facing Greenbrier in District 9 through 8 for some baseball. Greenbrier, if they win this afternoon, they'll take a solo spot atop the first place standings in District 9 through 8 for baseball. Tomorrow afternoon, tentatively looking forward to getting up to Springfield for some softball. They take on Rossview, and then later in this week, maybe some flag football on the girls' side, and then also got some coverage coming from Carl Edmondson later this week of Joe Burns softball making the trip over to CPA on Thursday afternoon.
So you're doing
I've had a lot of coaching changes. I've had a lot of coaching changes the last couple weeks.
So just in addition to the recaps and the games themselves, you've had to deal with some off the field issues as well.
Three of my 5 girls basketball coachings are open now. I've had 3 openings in the last 2 weeks.
And none of the administrators or coaches consulted with you in regards to your schedule before they made those announcements.
No,
I'm assuming.
I don't. They don't do that. They don't think a little of me.
I understand. You did mention Station Camp. That's a team that went to the state tournament in baseball last year, right?
They went to the state championship game last year.
Yeah.
But a little down this year. Graduated some Division I arms in Carter Casabella and left-handed hitting stick and Noah Rice, who's at Belmont. But Corey Emper does a great job over there at Station Camp.
I love that. In addition to all that, you got some responsibilities with the sounds as well, so you're keeping tabs. It seemed like a good series versus Memphis.
Right. Every game I attended, the Sounds won. So I guess I'm good luck for them. The games I did not attend, the Sounds lost. So, maybe they put a more chunk of change in the pocket. I'll show up a little more often, right?
A little winning fee. I like that. That's good. That's good thinking by you, David Wilson. Thank you so much for taking some time to I know your busy schedule. Always a blast to catch up with you. I sincerely appreciate that, my friend.
Right. Enjoy having Blaine on tomorrow. I hope you guys go toe-to-toe over the Stros and the Rangers.
That'll be fun, folks. Thanks to David Wilson for joining us again. He is the great sports editor at the Robertson County Connection. And Blaine Keller will be in for David tomorrow. Wade Neely sitting in the saddle with you guys all week. Stay tuned. We will have tomorrow Brendan Quinn from The Athletic. He's been down at Augusta all week. He will join us to recap the Masters. We will also talk with Chip Walters for our weekly MTSU segment. Come back with us on Tuesday. But that is a wrap for the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.